There is an old saying, wise as an owl, so perhaps it's not so unexpected that this family of spotted eagle owls in Durban have chosen a place of learning as a home. Boys at Northwood School first noticed their unusual residence towards the end of last year. Grade 8 learner Larry Bata says a mating pair had built a nest in a set of rugby posts.
When rugby season ended, that's when the workers had to take down the rugby posts. So they gently put it in the trees just to make a new habitat for them.
And then suddenly this little white thing popped up, and this was its chick, and that's when it just became the focus of everybody in the school.
Janet Morton is the school's biology teacher.
They were probably the most well-guarded owls in the whole of the world. Everybody, anything happened, they ran up to my classroom. Ma'am, this is happening. Ma'am, that's happening.
Shannon Fly works at the Africa Birds of Prey Rehabilitation Center near Pietermaritzburg and says spotted eagle owls often take up roost in urban environments, especially if there are lots of rodents and small birds to eat.
The spotted eagle owl is the commonest owl species in South Africa, and we're getting them all over the subcontinent, and they're kind of mid-range as far as size-wise goes, and they found commonly in suburban areas. They live all around us, and so it's a pretty cool species to have and know.
There are 12 kinds of owl species found in South Africa. The biggest is the Verreaux or giant eagle owl.
Dopey eyelids, very indicative of the species, the pink eyelids. Gorgeous.
All the birds that are at the sanctuary cannot be released back into the wild. This poor Verreaux eagle owl was hit by a car.
So he can't hunt for himself. So the importance there is to just try and give them a decent environment where they can live out their life as such. And most of the threats to owls are human-induced.
She says many owls get caught up in power lines or die from poisoning.
It's secondary poisoning through rat poison. So we will poison our rat, and then unfortunately they swallow their prey whole in a single gulp, so that poison is just going to be transferred to the owl itself.
The good news is that many do survive their encounters with human-made threats, and many are released.
So what our hope is here is that these new birds, they have a new job as such, they're ambassadors. So they can teach our kids and our folk about the wild animals and the threats that they face.
Shannon introduced us to some of her favorites, including these tiny little pearl-spotted owlets who measure just 19 centimeters high. Unlike other owls, these fellows hunt during the day.
They look terribly sweet, but they are in fact just fierce little predators, and they'll eat anything from a small mouse to a tiny bird to lizards to insects.
One of the most unusual owls is the Pell's fishing owl.
This is a rare animal. It's listed in the Red Data book. She's specially designed to be able to hunt fish, so she's got rough feet. The spicules on the underside of her feet are to be able to grab a slippery fish, and that's her adaptation and her speciality. Lovely to see. Very few of us interested in wild creatures have actually seen them in the wild.
Although all owls have large piercing eyes, which can see exceptionally well in the dark, owls depend mostly on their hearing to pinpoint their prey. These birds can also swivel their heads to face backwards.
One of the reasons is that his eyeball itself is not very flexible.
While we can move our eyes around in our sockets to see in different directions, an owl's eye is almost static.
So he then has to whiz his whole head around so he can check for other things.
This little fellow is a barn owl and is often found nesting in, well, barns and other man-made structures. He, like most owls, mates for life and will have chicks once a season. Some make nests in trees, others in hollows, and some on the ground, like this pair of African grass owls. The boys at the school are curious as to what will happen to the spotted eagle owl chick when the parents start to breed again.
The time they hatch to the time they're full grown, you're looking at about 6 weeks. And then they're just learning the ropes about how to be a big owl. And then as they become more successful as predators themselves, then the parents will basically just start to push them off. And a lot of people will actually phone in to Raptor Rescue or to the sanctuary asking about there's a young animal making or a young bird calling, and it seems to be in distress, and normally that's a 3/4 grown baby of some kind soliciting food from parents who are now saying, sorry buddy, it's your time, you must go, and they've been kicked out of the house as such.
Grade 12 learner Tyler Smith says he hopes the owls never leave.
It gives us first-hand experience, like working with the animals that we learn about in biology, and just helps us to learn more about nature.
We've got a fantastic textbook just sitting in the tree. Just show them, see, this happens, that happens, that happens, and they can see it. And obviously they remember it, but they don't have to read it because they've seen it.
She says they plan to install owl boxes around the school to encourage the owl family to stay and possibly tempt others to move in.